I never believed in love at first sight until that April evening at the Scottsdale Equestrian Club. My name is Jessica Henderson, and at 49, I thought I'd seen everything the heart could offer. The charity event buzzed with Scottsdale's elite, but my attention wasn't on the champagne or designer gowns. A voice drifted across the courtyard, smooth as desert honey, wrapping around my soul like silk. She stood on the small stage, golden hair catching the string lights, blue eyes closed in concentration. Summer Davis, the program announced. Her voice painted pictures of longing and freedom that made my chest tighten in ways I'd forgotten were possible. Beautiful, isn't she? I turned to find Margaret, the club owner, watching me with knowing eyes. The singer? Yes, she's talented. That's not what I meant, Jessica. Heat rushed to my cheeks. At my age, blushing felt ridiculous, but Margaret's smirk suggested she saw right through my professional facade. After Summer's final note faded, I found myself walking toward the stables. I needed air, space to process the unexpected stirring in my chest. Dancing had always been my therapy, but tonight even movement couldn't quiet my thoughts. Couldn't stay for the meet and greet either? I spun around. Summer stood in the stable doorway, still radiant but somehow more real without stage lights. Up close, I noticed the slight tremor in her hands, the way she held herself like someone accustomed to performing even offstage. I needed quiet, I admitted. Mind if I join you? The crowd gets overwhelming. We walked to adjacent stalls where 2 horses waited, already saddled. Summer moved with surprising confidence around the animals, her earlier nervousness vanishing. You ride often? I asked, mounting Sahara, my usual mare. Every chance I get. Something about the desert at twilight. We rode in comfortable silence, our horses finding an easy rhythm across the red-tinted landscape. The setting sun painted everything golden, including Summer's profile as she leaned forward in her saddle. What do you do when you're not attending charity events? She called over the sound of hoofbeats. Dance therapy. I help people find their rhythm again. Their rhythm? Movement heals. Sometimes we need to feel our bodies before we can trust our hearts. Summer's horse slowed, matching my pace. That sounds like something I could use. The way she said it, vulnerable and hopeful, made something shift inside me. This wasn't just polite conversation between strangers. I have a studio downtown. Would you take me on as a client? The professional response would be yes, of course, call my office. Instead, I found myself saying, what are you running from, Summer? She reined in her horse completely, blue eyes searching mine in the fading light. How did you know I was running? Your songs, they're beautiful, but they're all about escape. For a moment, the mask she wore for the world slipped entirely. I saw loneliness there and something deeper, recognition. Maybe we could help each other find what we're both looking for, she said quietly. As our horses stood still in the desert twilight, I realized this moment would change everything. I just didn't know how much. 3 days after our desert ride, Summer walked into my studio wearing dark sunglasses despite the overcast morning. Her usual confidence seemed muted, replaced by careful, measured movements. I hurt my shoulder during last night's performance, she explained, removing her jacket with obvious discomfort. A friend recommended you. We both knew which friend, but neither of us mentioned Margaret's meddling. I kept my expression professional, though my pulse quickened at seeing her again. Tell me about the injury. Pulled something during the second set. I get caught up in the music, move too enthusiastically. I watched her demonstrate, noting how she favored her left side. But there was something else, a tension that went beyond physical pain. When did you start performing? 17. My first real job was in Phoenix lounges. The math told a story she wasn't sharing. 17 years of late nights, difficult crowds, and whatever had put those shadows in her eyes. Let's start with basic movement therapy, I said, dimming the lights. Follow my lead. I began with gentle stretches, our bodies moving in synchronized waves across the mirrored studio. Summer's natural grace emerged despite her injury, and I found myself mesmerized by the fluid way she interpreted each motion. You're a natural dancer, I murmured as we transitioned to arm movements. Music and movement are connected for me, always have been. As we worked, her walls began cracking, She spoke about the loneliness of performing, how audiences loved the persona, but never saw the woman behind it. I understood more than I admitted. "What about you?" she asked during a rest. "What made you choose this work?" "Dance saved me once. Now I return the favor." Her blue eyes searched mine. "Saved you from what?" Before I could answer, my timer chimed. "Session over. Same time Thursday?" she asked, gathering her things. "Of course." But she lingered at the door. "Jessica, would you like to hear me perform again? I mean, really listen this time?" That evening, I sat in the Blue Moon Lounge's intimate space, nursing a glass of wine I barely touched. Summer commanded the small stage like it was Carnegie Hall, her voice weaving stories of heartbreak and hope. During her break, she joined me at my corner table. "You came. You asked." She ordered club soda, and I noticed her hands shaking slightly. The confident performer was nervous around me. I don't usually invite clients to shows. I'm not usually attracted to my therapists. The words hung between us, honest and dangerous. Summer's eyes widened, but she didn't look away. "Jessica. I know. It's complicated. More than you realize." She glanced around the dimly lit room. "In my world, certain things aren't accepted. Image matters." I understood. The entertainment industry could be unforgiving, especially in smaller markets like Scottsdale. "We don't have to figure everything out tonight," I said gently. Relief flickered across her features. "Thank you." When she returned to the stage for her final set, something had shifted between us. Her songs felt more personal now, like secrets shared in darkness. When she sang about finding someone who saw past the surface, her eyes found mine across the room. After her last note, I waited while she packed up her equipment. The lounge emptied except for staff cleaning up. "Walk me to my car?" she asked. Outside, the desert air carried the scent of night-blooming jasmine. We moved slowly, neither wanting the evening to end. "I'm scared," she admitted as we reached her sedan. "Of what?" "Of wanting something I'm not sure I can have." I stepped closer, close enough to see the vulnerability she hid so well. Sometimes the best things are worth being afraid of. She looked up at me, lips slightly parted. For a heartbeat, I thought she might kiss me. Instead, she touched my hand briefly. "See you Thursday, Jessica." As her taillights disappeared, I knew we'd crossed an invisible line. Thursday couldn't come soon enough. Thursday's session felt different from the moment Summer entered my studio. She moved with less caution, her shoulder healing, but something deeper had shifted. We'd acknowledged the attraction between us, and now every innocent touch during therapy carried electric undertones. "How's the pain level today?" I asked, guiding her through shoulder rotations. "Better. Much better." Our eyes met in the mirror, and neither of us looked away immediately. The professional boundary we'd maintained was dissolving with each session. "I've been thinking about what you said," Summer continued, stretching her arms overhead. "About dance saving you. It's not an easy story. I'd like to hear it, if you're willing to share." I helped adjust her posture, my hands warm against her back. "I was married once, to a man who thought he could control me through isolation. Dance therapy gave me back my voice, my power." Summer turned to face me completely. "How long ago?" 7 years. I haven't dated anyone seriously since." "Anyone at all?" The question hung heavy between us. I could lie, maintain some distance, but Summer's honesty deserved the same. "There have been women, but nothing lasting. I convinced myself I preferred it that way. And now? Now, I'm not so sure." After that session, Summer started attending my evening classes. She claimed it helped her performance energy, but I suspected deeper reasons. We'd exchange glances across the room as I guided other clients through movement sequences. Building tension neither of us was ready to address directly. 3 weeks into this delicate dance, Summer surprised me. "I want you to come to my show Saturday night," she said after class. "But this time, I'm dedicating a song to you, Summer." Nothing obvious, just something that means something to us. Saturday arrived with unseasonable warmth for May. I chose a black dress that made me feel confident, then immediately questioned every decision. At 49, was I too old for this kind of romantic uncertainty? The blue moon was packed, unusual for a Saturday. Word was spreading about Summer's performances. I found my usual table, but tonight felt different, expectant. Summer took the stage in a flowing emerald dress that matched her eyes under the stage lights. She looked stunning, but more importantly, she looked happy. "Tonight's opening song is dedicated to someone special," she announced, her gaze finding mine across the crowded room. "Someone who's teaching me that it's never too late to find your rhythm." The opening notes of At Last filled the intimate space, but Summer's interpretation was uniquely hers, slower, more sensual, with added lyrics that felt like a love letter. When she sang about finding a dream to call her own, her eyes never left mine. My heart hammered so loudly I was sure other patrons could hear it. This wasn't subtle anymore. This was a declaration. During her break, Summer didn't join me at my table. Instead, she nodded toward the exit. I followed her outside to the small garden behind the lounge. "That was beautiful," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I meant every word. We stood close in the jasmine-scented darkness, the muffled sounds of the lounge behind us. Summer's face was illuminated by soft garden lights, making her look ethereal. "Jessica, I need you to know something. I've never felt this way about anyone, man or woman. It scares the hell out of me." "Me too." She stepped closer, close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating from her skin. "What are we doing?" "I don't know, but I don't want to stop." Summer reached up, her fingertips barely grazing my cheek. "I've wanted to touch you like this since that first night in the desert." "Then, why haven't you?" "Because once I start, I won't want to stop." The honesty in her voice undid me completely. I cupped her face in my hands, thumbs tracing the delicate line of her cheekbones. "Then don't stop." When our lips finally met, it was soft at first, tentative, like we were both afraid of breaking something precious. Then Summer's arms wound around my neck, and the kiss deepened into something hungry and desperate and perfect. We broke apart breathless, foreheads touching. "Damn," Summer whispered. "My thoughts exactly." She laughed, the sound lighter than I'd ever heard from her. "I have to finish my set." "I'll wait." "Promise?" "Promise." As she returned to the stage, I touched my lips, still tingling from our kiss. Everything had changed in that garden moment, and there was no going back. After that kiss in the garden, Summer and I began meeting outside our professional sessions. Coffee dates turned into long walks through Old Town Scottsdale, conversations flowing like we'd known each other for years instead of weeks. "I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop," Summer confessed one afternoon as we browsed a local art gallery. "This feels too good to be real. Maybe we deserve something good." She squeezed my hand, a gesture that still sent warmth racing through me. "I'm 49, Summer. I've learned not to question gifts when they appear, even when they complicate everything." I stopped walking, turning to face her fully, especially then. The following Tuesday brought unexpected spring storms to Arizona. Rain hammered the windows of my studio as Summer arrived for her session, soaked despite her umbrella. "Sorry I'm late. The roads are flooding everywhere." I handed her a towel, trying not to stare at how the damp fabric of her blouse clung to her curves. "We might have to cut the session short if this gets worse." As if summoned by my words, thunder crashed overhead, followed by a power outage that plunged us into darkness. "Well, that settles it," I said, fumbling for the emergency candles I kept in my desk drawer. "Should I reschedule?" "Not unless you want to drive through a monsoon." I lit several candles, their warm glow transforming my clinical studio into something intimate and mysterious. Summer had wrapped the towel around her shoulders, her blonde hair darker when wet. "This is cozy," she said softly. "Very different from our usual sessions." We settled on the floor cushions I used for meditation work, listening to rain pound against the windows. The storm created a cocoon around us, shutting out the rest of the world. "Can I ask you something personal?" Summer said. "Haven't you been doing that for weeks?" She smiled. "When did you first know? About women, I mean." The question hung in the candlelit air. "College. A dance partner named Sarah." I spent 2 years convincing myself it was just friendship before I admitted the truth. "What happened?" "She graduated and moved to New York. I married my ex-husband 6 months later, thinking I could make myself normal. Summer reached for my hand. I'm sorry. Don't be. It taught me not to run from who I am. I studied her face in the flickering light. What about you? High school drama club. The lead actress in our spring musical. I wrote her love letters I never sent, convinced I was broken somehow. But, you've been with women since? Summer's expression grew complicated. A few, mostly in secret. The music industry isn't exactly progressive, especially for female artists trying to build careers. Thunder crashed again, closer this time. The storm was intensifying. I've spent so many years hiding parts of myself, she continued. With you, I don't want to hide anymore. Then don't. She shifted closer on the cushions, candlelight dancing across her features. I've never felt this comfortable with anyone, Jessica. You see me, all of me, not just the performer. Because you're worth seeing. The sincerity in my voice seemed to break something open in her. She leaned forward, her lips finding mine in the warm darkness. This kiss was different from our first, deeper and more certain. I threaded my fingers through her damp hair, pulling her closer as the storm raged outside. She tasted like rain and possibility, and I wanted to memorize every sensation. I'm falling in love with you, she whispered against my lips. The words sent electricity through my entire body. Summer. I know it's fast, I know it's complicated, but I can't pretend anymore. I cupped her face in my hands, studying her expression in the candlelight. The vulnerability there, the trust, overwhelmed me. I'm falling in love with you too. Relief flooded her features. Really? Really. She kissed me again, more urgently this time, and I felt years of careful control dissolving. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, the storm outside seemed to mirror the one building between us. The rain's not stopping anytime soon, Summer observed. No, it's not. Maybe I should stay until it passes. I smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Maybe you should. As another flash of lightning illuminated the studio, I realized this storm had given us exactly what we needed, time and space to stop hiding from the truth growing between us. The storm that had trapped us in my studio became our sanctuary. As rain continued outside, Summer and I moved from cautious conversation to something deeper, more primal. The candlelight cast dancing shadows across her face as she looked at me with an intensity that made my breath catch. Are you sure about this? I whispered as she traced patterns along my arm. I've never been more sure of anything. When our lips met again, the kiss carried a desperation born of weeks of restraint. Her hands found the hem of my shirt, and I didn't stop her when she pulled it over my head. The cool air of the studio contrasted with the heat building between us. We moved together on the soft cushions, exploring each other with reverent touches. Summer's skin was silk beneath my fingertips, and when she gasped my name, the sound sent fire through my veins. Years of loneliness melted away as we lost ourselves in each other, the storm outside forgotten. In the aftermath, as we lay entwined in the flickering candlelight, something extraordinary happened. Summer's fingers traced lazy patterns on my shoulder, and suddenly my mind exploded with images that weren't my own. A little girl with blonde pigtails practicing piano scales. A teenager crying in a school bathroom. A young woman singing in smoky bars, counting tips at 3 a.m. What the hell? I gasped, jerking away from Summer's touch. Jessica? What's wrong? The images faded, leaving me disoriented and shaking. I saw things, your memories. Summer sat up, pulling a blanket around herself. What do you mean? Your childhood, the piano lessons, that awful audition when you were 19 where the producer... I stopped, realizing how impossible this sounded. Her face went pale. How could you possibly know about that? I've never told anyone. I don't know how. When you touched me, I saw flashes of your past, like watching a movie but fragmented. Summer scooted away from me, confusion and fear warring in her expression. That's not possible. I know how it sounds, but I saw your first apartment in Phoenix, the broken heater, the neighbor's dog that kept you awake. Stop. Her voice was barely a whisper. Just stop. I reached for her, but she flinched. Summer, please. I don't understand what's happening either. You're telling me you can read minds? Not minds. Memories. And only when we're touching, apparently. She stared at me like I'd grown a second head. This is insane. I know. I pulled on my shirt, suddenly self-conscious. But it happened. The question is, what do we do about it? Summer stood abruptly, gathering her clothes. I need to think. This is too much. Don't go. Please. She paused, her back to me. I just shared the most intimate moment of my life with you, and now you're telling me you've been inside my head? It wasn't intentional. I didn't even know it was possible. But you saw things. Private things. The hurt in her voice cut through me. Yes. She turned around, tears glistening in the candlelight. How do I know this is real, any of it? How do I know you're not manipulating me somehow? Because you know me, Summer. You know I would never hurt you. Do I? Because right now, I don't know what to believe. The storm outside had finally passed, but the one between us was just beginning. Summer finished dressing in silence while I sat frozen on the cushions, trying to process what had happened. I need time, she said finally. How much time? I don't know. After she left, I remained in the candlelit studio until dawn, touching random objects and concentrating, hoping to trigger the ability again. Nothing happened. It seemed connected specifically to Summer, which made it both more mysterious and more frightening. When I finally went home, exhaustion weighed on me like a physical force. But sleep brought no peace, only dreams filled with fragmented memories that might not even be my own. For 3 days, Summer avoided my calls. Her silence felt like physical pain, a constant ache in my chest that no amount of work could distract from. I threw myself into client sessions, helping others find their rhythm while my own world tilted off its axis. On the 4th day, she appeared at my studio door looking exhausted and uncertain. Can we talk? She asked. I nodded, not trusting my voice. We settled in my office, maintaining careful distance on opposite chairs. I've been thinking about what happened, she began. About what you saw. Summer, I'm sorry. I never meant to invade your privacy. She held up a hand. Let me finish. The things you described, they were accurate. Too accurate to be coincidence or lucky guesses. So you believe me? I don't know what I believe, but I keep coming back to one thing. She leaned forward slightly. If you can really see memories, then you know things about me that I've never told anyone. Dark things. My stomach clenched. During that strange episode, I'd glimpsed fragments of pain, fear, and shame scattered through her past like broken glass. I saw enough to know you've been hurt. Then you understand why this terrifies me. Someone having that kind of access to my mind. I understand completely. If I could control it, turn it off, I would. Summer studied my face for a long moment. What if I want you to see more? The question caught me off guard. What? I've spent my whole life hiding pieces of myself, Jessica. From family, from the industry, from lovers. But if you can actually see who I really am, all of it, maybe that's not invasion. Maybe that's intimacy. And Summer... Touch my hand. Are you sure? She extended her palm across the space between us. I'm tired of secrets. When our fingers connected, the world exploded into memory fragments again. This time, I tried to focus instead of fight it. I saw a teenage Summer sobbing in her bedroom after her parents discovered love letters she'd written to her female classmate. The shame on her father's face. Her mother's cold silence for months afterward. I witnessed her first serious relationship with a woman named Claire. The joy of finally being authentic, then the devastation when Claire chose career advancement over their love. Most painfully, I experienced fragments of her relationship with Kennedy, a possessive woman who isolated Summer from friends, controlled her performances, and left emotional scars that still ached. When the visions faded, I found Summer watching me intently. Well, she asked. I'm so sorry you went through all that. The memories about Kennedy, what did you see? Enough to know she hurt you deeply, the controlling behavior, the jealousy, the way she made you doubt yourself. Summer's eyes filled with tears. She convinced me I was unlovable, unless I was perfect, that I had to earn affection through submission. That's not love, Summer. That's manipulation. I know that now. But those wounds run deep. I reached for her other hand, maintaining our connection. You're not unlovable. You're extraordinary. More memories flickered through, but gentler ones this time. Summer's first standing ovation, the day she bought her own apartment. Small victories that had rebuilt her confidence piece by piece. This is so strange, she murmured. I can feel you in my mind, but it doesn't feel invasive anymore. It feels like you're truly seeing me. I am seeing you, and you're beautiful, all of you. She leaned closer, our joined hands resting between us. I've never let anyone this far in. Are you scared? Terrified, but also relieved. I don't have to explain my damage to you. You've witnessed it firsthand. It's not damage, Summer. It's survival. It's strength. When she kissed me this time, the memory connection remained active. I experienced the kiss from her perspective too, felt her wonder at being accepted completely, scars and all. The dual sensation was overwhelming and beautiful. This power of yours, she whispered against my lips. Maybe it's not a curse. Maybe it's exactly what we both needed. What do you mean? You get to know me without pretense, and I get to feel truly known for the first time in my life. As we held each other in the fading afternoon light, I realized Summer was right. What had seemed like an invasion was actually the deepest form of intimacy either of us had ever experienced. Summer and I had found our rhythm over the following weeks. My ability to access her memories had become less frightening and more natural, like sharing a secret language only we understood. We were planning a weekend getaway to Sedona when everything changed. I was restocking supplies in my studio when someone knocked aggressively on the door. Through the frosted glass, I saw a tall woman with sharp features and predatory posture. Can I help you? I asked, opening the door cautiously. You must be Jessica. Her smile was cold, calculating. I'm Kennedy Howard, Summer's ex. My blood ran cold. From Summer's memories, I knew this woman had nearly destroyed her self-worth through psychological manipulation and control. Summer isn't here. I know exactly where Summer is. I'm here about you. Kennedy pushed past me into the studio, her presence filling the space with toxic energy. She moved like someone accustomed to taking what she wanted. Nice setup you have here. Very intimate. What do you want, Kennedy? She turned to face me, her gray eyes calculating. I want you to understand something about Summer. She has patterns, weaknesses. She gravitates toward people who will hurt her. I would never hurt her. That's what they all say. Kennedy circled me slowly, like a predator sizing up prey. But Summer and I have history. Real history. What you two have is just a phase. You're wrong. Am I? Has she told you about the panic attacks? The nights she wakes up screaming? The way she sabotages every good thing in her life? Each word was designed to plant seeds of doubt. But having witnessed Summer's memories, I understood Kennedy's tactics. She's healing from the damage you caused. Kennedy's mask slipped for a moment, revealing ugly anger beneath. I gave Summer everything. Structure, guidance, a career. You gave her trauma. Careful, Jessica. You don't know what you're dealing with. Before I could respond, Kennedy grabbed my wrist. The moment our skin connected, my ability activated involuntarily. Kennedy's memories flooded my mind, and what I saw made my stomach turn. Images of Summer cowering during Kennedy's rages. Systematic isolation from friends and family. Financial control used as emotional leverage. Evidence of Kennedy hiring private investigators to track Summer's movements even after their breakup. Most disturbing were Kennedy's current activities. Photos of Summer and me together, taken from a distance. Notes about my schedule, my clients, my home address. She'd been stalking us for weeks. Get your hands off me, I gasped, jerking away from her grip. Kennedy's eyes narrowed. Interesting reaction. Most people don't respond to touch quite so dramatically. She knew. Somehow, she'd sensed what happened during our connection. Stay away from Summer. And stay away from me. Or what? You'll call the police? Tell them what, exactly? That I visited your business and had a conversation? Kennedy was right. I had no proof of her stalking that would hold up legally. But I had something else now, something she didn't realize I possessed. I know about the private investigator, the photos, the detailed notes about our relationship. Her confident expression faltered. You're guessing. Marcus Chen Photography. You hired him 3 weeks ago. He's been following us to dinner, to the riding stable, even to the grocery store. Kennedy's face went pale. How could you possibly know that? I didn't answer, but held her gaze steadily. For the first time since entering my studio, Kennedy looked uncertain. This isn't over, she said finally, backing toward the door. Yes, it is. And if you come near Summer again, I'll make sure she has legal protection from your harassment. After Kennedy left, I called Summer immediately. We need to talk. Kennedy was just here. What? Are you okay? I'm fine, but she's been having us followed. There's evidence. That evening, Summer arrived at my apartment shaken but determined. I told her about Kennedy's visit and what I'd seen in her memories. She's never going to stop, is she? Summer asked, curled against me on the couch. Not without legal intervention. I'm scared, Jessica. She nearly destroyed me once. I held her closer, feeling her trembling. She can't hurt you anymore. We have proof of harassment now. How do we prove what you saw in her memories? We hire the same private investigator she used, Marcus Chen. If Kennedy paid him to document our relationship, those records exist. Summer looked up at me with something like awe. You're going to fight for us. Always. When she kissed me, I felt her relief and gratitude through our connection. But underneath lay something deeper, stronger. For the first time since Kennedy had re-entered her life, Summer felt protected instead of hunted. Make love to me, she whispered against my lips. I need to feel something beautiful after today. In my bedroom, we moved together with desperate tenderness, our connection allowing me to experience her healing through physical intimacy. Every touch erased a little more of Kennedy's poison, replacing fear with trust, shame with acceptance. Afterward, as Summer slept peacefully in my arms, I realized Kennedy had made a crucial mistake. By threatening what Summer and I had built together, she'd only made our bond stronger. The next morning, I contacted Marcus Chen. Kennedy's arrogance had been her downfall. The private investigator was surprisingly cooperative once he learned about her harassment patterns. I've been documenting relationships for 12 years, Marcus explained over the phone. Usually it's suspicious spouses. This felt different, more obsessive. Will you testify about what Kennedy hired you to do? Absolutely. I have photos, time logs, payment records, everything you need for a restraining order. Summer paced my living room while I made the call, nervous energy radiating from every movement. When I hung up, she stopped walking. He'll help us? More than help. He's willing to provide evidence that Kennedy's been stalking us systematically. Relief flooded Summer's features, but I could sense lingering fear through our connection when we touched. There's something else, she said quietly. Kennedy called my manager this morning. She's trying to sabotage the recording contract I've been negotiating. My stomach dropped. What did she tell them? That I'm unstable, unreliable. She painted herself as a concerned ex trying to protect the label from making a mistake. Can she do that legally? It's her word against mine, and she's very convincing. I pulled Summer into my arms, feeling her devastation through our shared connection. This contract represented everything she'd worked toward, her chance to escape the lounge circuit and reach a wider audience. We're going to stop her. How? By using my ability strategically. That afternoon, we met with Summer's lawyer, David Martinez, a soft-spoken man who specialized in entertainment law and harassment cases. I'd prepared carefully for this conversation. I need to share some unconventional evidence with you, I began. Evidence about Kennedy's motivations and methods. What kind of evidence? Personal knowledge of her psychological patterns and intentions. David looked skeptical. You understand that hearsay won't hold up in court? It's not hearsay. It's direct observation. I explained my ability in clinical terms, focusing on the factual information I'd obtained, rather than the supernatural mechanism. David listened with increasing interest as I detailed Kennedy's stalking behavior, financial records I'd glimpsed, and her systematic campaign to destroy Summer's career. If even half of what you're describing is accurate, we have grounds for criminal harassment charges, not just a restraining order. It's all accurate. How can you be so certain? I looked at Summer, who nodded encouragingly. Because I experienced Kennedy's memories firsthand when she grabbed my wrist yesterday. David raised an eyebrow but didn't dismiss the claim outright. That's an unusual source of evidence. But the information I obtained can be verified through traditional means. Bank records, phone logs, witness statements. 3 hours later, we had a comprehensive legal strategy. David would file for an emergency restraining order while simultaneously pursuing criminal harassment charges. Marcus Chen's evidence would provide the foundation, with my insights guiding where to look for corroborating proof. There's one more thing, Summer said as we prepared to leave. I want to confront Kennedy directly, publicly. Summer, that's dangerous. No, it's necessary. She's been controlling my narrative for months. It's time I took it back. David frowned. I don't recommend direct contact with your harasser. What if it's in a controlled environment? Witnesses present? An idea began forming in my mind. The Blue Moon Lounge, your regular Saturday show. What are you thinking? Kennedy expects you to hide, to let her destroy your reputation quietly. Instead, you tell your story, your truth. Let the audience decide who to believe. Summer's eyes lit up with understanding. A public declaration of independence. Exactly. David still looked uncomfortable. This could backfire spectacularly. Or it could end Kennedy's power over me forever, Summer said firmly. That Saturday, the Blue Moon was packed beyond capacity. Word had spread about Summer's special announcement, and the usual intimate crowd had swollen to include music industry professionals, local media, and curious onlookers. I sat at my regular table, heart hammering as Summer took the stage. She looked radiant in a flowing blue dress, confident in a way I hadn't seen since Kennedy's reappearance. Before I sing tonight, I need to share something personal, Summer began, her voice carrying clearly through the hushed room. For months, someone from my past has been trying to control my present, spreading lies about my character, interfering with my career, stalking my personal relationships. Murmurs rippled through the audience. In the back corner, I spotted Kennedy's distinctive silhouette. I've spent years running from my truth, letting fear make my choices. Not anymore. Summer's gaze found mine across the room, and I felt her courage flowing through our connection. I'm a lesbian. I'm in love with an extraordinary woman who sees all of me and loves me anyway. And I refuse to let anyone shame me for finding happiness. The applause started slowly, then built to thunderous approval. Kennedy pushed through the crowd toward the exit, her face twisted with rage and defeat. This song is for Jessica Henderson, Summer continued, who taught me that the most beautiful rhythm is an authentic one. As Summer's voice filled the room with a love song written just for me, I realized Kennedy's campaign had backfired completely. Instead of destroying Summer's reputation, the harassment had only strengthened her resolve to live openly and honestly. When our eyes met across the crowded room, I mouthed "I love you," and felt her joy echo through our supernatural connection. 6 months after Summer's public declaration at the Blue Moon Lounge, our lives had transformed beyond recognition. Kennedy's harassment charges had resulted in a permanent restraining order and mandatory counseling, effectively ending her campaign of terror. More importantly, Summer's courage that night had impressed Horizon Records, a progressive label that specialized in authentic artistry over manufactured personas. They offered her a 3-album deal with complete creative control. I still can't believe this is real, Summer said, reviewing contract details at my kitchen table. A year ago, I was hiding who I was. Now they want to market my authenticity. You earned this through talent and bravery. She reached across the table, taking my hand. The memory connection that had once frightened us now felt natural as breathing. Through our touch, I experienced her excitement, gratitude, and deep contentment. There's something else, she said, her emotions shifting to nervous anticipation. The label wants to do a documentary about my journey, how I found my voice, personally and professionally. That sounds wonderful. They want to include you. Our relationship. How you helped me heal. Even your unusual ability. I raised an eyebrow. They believe in memory reading? They believe in love stories that inspire people to live authentically. The supernatural element just makes it more compelling. Over the past months, I'd learned to control my ability through meditation and focused intention. What had started as random, overwhelming episodes now happened only when I consciously opened myself to the connection. The power felt less like a curse and more like an extraordinary form of empathy. "I'd want editorial approval," I said finally. "Of course. This is our story, Jessica. We tell it our way." 3 weeks later, the documentary crew arrived at our new home in the Scottsdale foothills. We'd moved in together after summer's tour ended, choosing a house with mountain views reminiscent of our first horseback ride. "Tell us about the moment you knew this relationship was different," the director asked during filming. Summer and I exchanged glances, remembering that stormy night in my studio when everything changed. "I'd spent my whole life wearing masks," Summer answered. "With Jessica, I discovered I didn't need them. She saw past every wall I'd built." "And Jessica, when did you realize you had this unusual connection to Summer's memories?" "The same night I realized I was falling in love with her. The timing wasn't coincidental. True intimacy requires complete vulnerability, and somehow my heart found a way to experience hers literally." The interviewer leaned forward. "Some viewers might find the memory sharing difficult to believe." "I understand that," I replied. "But love itself is supernatural. The ability to feel another person's joy as your own, to carry their pain and help heal it, that's miraculous, whether it happens emotionally or through some other mechanism." Summer squeezed my hand, and through our connection I felt her pride in how I'd articulated something so impossible to explain. Later that evening, after the crew had packed up, we sat on our back patio watching the sunset paint the desert mountains gold and crimson. "Any regrets?" Summer asked, curled against my side on the outdoor sofa. "About what?" "Choosing a complicated love over a simple life." I considered the question seriously. The past year had been intense, transformative, sometimes frightening. But as I felt Summer's contentment flowing through our joined hands, I knew my answer. "The only thing I regret is waiting 49 years to find you." "I'm worth the wait?" "You're worth everything." Summer shifted to face me, her blue eyes reflecting the desert twilight. "I have something for you." She produced a small velvet box from her pocket, and my heart stopped. "Summer, I know we've talked about marriage being complicated for couples like us, but I don't care about legal definitions. I want to promise myself to you in every way that matters." Inside the box lay a simple platinum band set with a small desert opal that caught the fading light like captured sunset. "Jessica Henderson, will you build a life with me? Will you let me love you for as long as we both exist in this world?" Tears blurred my vision as I held out my left hand. "Yes, always yes." As Summer slipped the ring onto my finger, our memory connection activated intensely. I experienced her nervousness about the proposal, her absolute certainty about our future, and her overwhelming joy at my acceptance. "I love you beyond reason," I whispered. "I love you beyond memory." When we kissed, surrounded by the vast beauty of the Arizona desert under an endless sky full of stars, I realized we'd found something most people only dream of. A love that transcended the ordinary boundaries of human connection. Our story began with mystery, and would always carry elements of the inexplicable. But at its heart lay the simplest truth of all: two souls recognizing each other across time and space, choosing to build something beautiful together despite every obstacle. The desert wind carried our whispered promises into the night, and I knew this was just the beginning.